But the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
This is HBR News number 198. Hashtag MeToo is at it again as brave former Trump campaign worker comes forward, where we will reflect on the stories of the week and give it the Badger treatment. Hello everybody and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. I am your host Brian and I am joined by, as always, my esteemed panelists, Hannah and the two mics. We have a great show lined up for you guys today, so please be sure to continue the conversations both in the chat as well as the comments section. On this week's HBR News show, we'll be talking about the news of the week, including YouTube demonetizing videos for the comments that are put on them, the Time's Up CEO, yeah, I know, I didn't know that Time's Up was a company, but apparently it is. The CEO of Time's Up has a son that was accused of sexual misconduct, which forces her to step down. That's ironic. New allegations against President Trump, because why not? And more. So stick around. It's going to be a good time. And be sure to join us afterwards for the patron-only after show. Recently, legislation has been introduced that has ruled men having to register for selective service, and not women, that has been ruled unconstitutional. Since that's the case, a credit to Mark Angelucci and NCFM for that victory. Feminists, naturally, have opined on this with varying opinions, although they all really come from the perspective of putting women first in one form or another. One woman, named Lindsay Dick, has chosen, that's her name, Lindsay Dick, and her name Lindsay is spelled Lynnzee because I gotta be different, has chosen to share her own thoughts on odysseyonline.com in an article entitled, "I'm a feminist and I'm against the new draft proposal, and it's not for the reason you think." Because she is not like regular feminists. She's different. So let's see what the big twist in her reveal might be in terms of her hot take on the new draft proposal.
You get the idea that she might not be like other feminists. She might be different.
Yeah. She's different. She's new. She's like a different, because feminism isn't a monolith. Yeah.
Right. All feminists are totally different from those other feminists.
That's exactly right. Anyway, if you would like to participate in our after shows either as an audience member or a participant, please consider becoming a Badger yourself by going to feedthebadger.com for setting up a monthly subscription. And if you don't want to wake up one morning to find yourself unable to find our content because YouTube finally dropped the axe on our channels, go to badgerfeed.com. That's badgerfeed.com. So let's not waste any time. We're going to go ahead and get right into the stories. And I'll start. This one was penned by Andrew G. Thank you, Andrew. And we're going to be talking about, the CEO of Time's Up, Lisa Border. Uh-oh, wait, hold on a second. Got a problem here. I'm sharing the wrong thing. Why is that? I apologize, guys. Give me a second. I'll go ahead and read part of the thing here. So, the CEO... Lisa Border, the CEO of Time's Up, is stepping down after she said that she needs to, quote, address family concerns that require my singular focus. While she did not officially state any other reason for her departure, the LA Times learned that her son was accused of sexual misconduct. Her son, 36-year-old Gary Bowden Jr., was accused on Facebook by a 31-year-old woman, Celia Gellert. The alleged incident occurred when Bowden, a photographer, life coach, and podcast host, gave Gellert a, quote, healing session, end quote. So it's a healing set. I guess it's like this, it's basically like woo-y yoga massages with, essential oils and whatever else they do. They inhale herbs or whatever. It's totally not religious though, guys. It's just spiritual, which is completely different. So he gave her she alleges that Bowden touched her genitalia, kissed her neck, and brushed his erect but clothed penis against her body during the session. So right off the bat, I just want to give you guys an opportunity to respond to any of this stuff so far, in case you might have an opinion. I don't know. So, while I am trying to find the PowerPoint here, but that's the allegation. It was on Facebook, by the way. It was just like a Facebook allegation.
Of course, because if it was an allegation to the police or anything, then they would have to investigate and find out whether what she was saying was true. And she can be vague like that without making anything very serious. And like saying he touched her genitalia, it sounds specific at first glance, but is she actually saying, that he directly put his hands on her, or is this a bump that happened in the midst of body work, which can happen, but usually doesn't. But it doesn't necessarily have the same connotations as if he actually did something deliberately and overtly sexual. So, like, the accusation is really vague. And of course, she makes it in a public forum where she doesn't really face any potential repercussions from this, but now his reputation takes a hit. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if that's true, I haven't ever experienced a normal therapeutic massage that involves anybody's erect penis. So that would be kind of weird.
It gets more interesting. So I did get the PowerPoint working. Bowden disputed Gellert's account, saying that Gellert had requested that massage, so it was in fact a massage. Gellert, however, sent Bowden a text message after the massage. She had said that she had disturbing dreams the night after the massage. He recommended another healer, with her thanking him and saying that the massage was, quote, gentle and authentic and loving, end quote. 2 days later, she reached out again, saying that she was still uncomfortable. Bowden responded by saying that, quote, I do feel a little surprised that you're saying you feel uncomfortable with the process, because you said multiple times during and after how beautiful and supportive it was, end quote. She responded by saying that while portions of the session worked for her, she was, quote, still left feeling uncomfortable and violated, end quote. 3 weeks after the alleged incident, Gellert took to Facebook. Not the police, but Facebook. Writing in the group, there's a group in Facebook called, quote, Inspired Women of Los Angeles, end quote. Remember that name so that you know to avoid it in the future. It's called Inspired Women of Los Angeles, warning others about Bowden. On February 20th, Gellert reported the incident to police. So she did end up going to police at some point. So there it is. The CEO of Time's Up Incorporated had to step down because her son was accused of sexual misconduct to deal with the situation.
And the thing about this that bothers me, if I was involved in something like that, and I experienced what she's describing, the first place I would go would not be Facebook or some other social media. It would be the police. If somebody did something illegal to me, the first place I would go would be the police.
That's because you're a normal person.
Yeah, well, I just would want to make sure that I had legal recourse for what was done to me, and that especially if this person is in a trusted position, you won't want them to be able to do this to somebody else, right? But that was the last place she went. She went everywhere else first, and it sounds like she only went to the police after there was probably a little public pressure because she went public with the accusations. And then you have this discussion between the two of them and everything. There are lots of things that I have called a massage after the fact, but authentic is not one of them. I don't use that word normally to describe
It's weird,
an
isn't
interaction with another person, a spontaneous interaction with another person to that person. That's a kind of strange thing to say.
Another thing is they're not really describing this as a massage. They're describing this as a healing session, which makes me wonder what else is involved, if anything.
Yeah, so this could go both ways. This could be one of those situations where a woman hasn't identified and communicated and enforced her boundaries and has flirted with a guy and then is interpreting his trying to take it to the next level, because it's always the guy's responsibility if it's going to go to the next level, that she's interpreting his attempts to do that as harassment and sexual assault, and yet it sounds like she didn't communicate any aversion to anything he was doing at the time that he was doing it. And that's like this is a common problem, honestly, with women in today's society. And it doesn't really matter whether the idea of a healing session being flaky new age bullshit. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Maybe it's psychologically therapeutic to some people. Like human touch just in and of itself is therapeutic if it's done in a comfortable setting. And
unless they feel violated, in which case it's crime.
Right. Then it's not.
Yeah.
But well, but that's the thing. If in a situation like that, and the other thing is, if somebody's doing that particular type of work, even as a hobby, one of the first things they do is tell you, tell me if anything makes you uncomfortable or you don't like something that I'm doing. So that communicates, to the recipient that they should speak up if they're not happy with something. And like, I can't have foot massages because my feet are so ticklish that you can't touch them. Even my husband can't touch them. Like any other area of me that's that ticklish, at least he can touch, but not my feet. It's really, really rare. So anytime I've ever had any kind of body work done, I've said, don't touch my feet. And it's, you have to communicate these things. And it's not, it's not equivalent, don't touch my feet, don't touch my genitals, but it's still something to communicate, and it's still a boundary. And that's a big thing that is lost with today's women. It used to be women were very vocal about their boundaries. It used to be, women could be very open about, no, you can't do that. I'm not interested in that, and so on. And now we have like this idea somehow that men are supposed to just psychically know that, all women have the same boundaries, which that's not true. And what they are, and when it's okay to push them and when it's not. And when it's okay to not push them, and when not pushing them is misogyny, because you also have women complaining that men don't hit on them because they're unattractive or whatever. So, I mean, this is like, it's entirely possible that this guy did something, creepy and predatory and all that, but it's also possible that this is one of those Me Too's where, because he was associating with somebody who couldn't communicate her boundaries and didn't, and basically didn't tell him to stop when she wanted him to stop.
Yeah.
And
just thought, well, I guess I'll just wait a couple weeks and then go
signals
on Facebook and then I'll say something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the other end of it, she may have been afraid to go to the police, because feminists have said over and over again, well, the police won't believe you. The police are going to treat you like crap when you go to them. Don't go talk to the police. God forbid you talk to the police, because they're going to ask you what you were wearing. And, blah, blah, blah. What were you guys in the middle of doing when he touched you with his dick? And like, that's going to affect feminist women's reporting of sexual assaults as well. So, I mean, this whole situation is, there's not enough information to make a judgment on anybody, but there's all kinds of things that can be speculated about it.
Yeah, for sure. How does she even know it was his dick? Could have been his leg. We don't know. The guy could be packing.
Yeah.
So anybody else have any thoughts on this story? I guess the only reason why I chose it was the irony of this being the CEO of Time's Up. And also, I wanted to shine a light on the fact that there is a CEO of Time's Up. Can you imagine if there was a CEO for a hashtag? Like, just the idea that exists. That this is how fast, I guess, California puts organizations together. They were like, we're going to use the Time's Up hashtag. I want to make it into a company with like stockholders and money. Well, I don't know about all that, but it's basically like an organization.
Is this a for-profit organization?
Oh, you bet your ass it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. and they provide resources and support for women. It's pretty lucrative, and of course, feminists run it. Interesting, right? Can you imagine that
victimhood's a good business?
A Gamergate Incorporated, when that was a hashtag, they would the internet would go crazy. Look, it's an organized movement of people, and they made a company out of harassing women online. No, instead, the reality is much more ironic, I guess. You have a company that exists to benefit off of women's victimization and sows paranoia and guilt in men. Congrats. And then they profit off of it. It's crazy. They create the sickness, and then they offer the cure. So it's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Feminists always do.
Yeah, it's a pretty good scheme. All right, so that was basically that. Now, speaking of accusations, we got more. This is I had to look at the calendar when I saw this, because I could have sworn we've already been through this a couple of years ago. So, Mike J, if you could, please take it away.
Will do. So, Alva Johnson, a former staffer for the 2016 Trump campaign, is suing President Donald Trump. The former campaign staffer claims in August of 2016 Trump kissed her without consent. Johnson alleges the unwanted kiss happened outside a Tampa, Florida-based rally. Yeah. Johnson tells the Washington Post, and I could not do this justice, Hannah, could you please?
Oh boy. Okay. I immediately felt violated because I wasn't expecting it or wanting it. I can still see his lips coming straight from my face. Okay.
Very well done. Thank you, Hannah. So while Johnson
coming and didn't dodge.
Yeah.
So while Johnson has named 2 alleged eyewitnesses to the event, the White House has denied these allegations. Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders released a statement calling the allegation, quote, absurd on its face, and further states, quote, this never happened and is directly contradicted by multiple highly credible eyewitness accounts.
Wait. So she saw his lips coming straight for her face, and the allegation is what? Absurd on its face.
Yeah, absurd on its face. That's right. This is she actually suffered PTSD. The way that she describes it, she says she doesn't get any sleep.
Yeah.
She keeps waking up at 4 a.m. thinking about this face, and she doesn't know. She just completely traumatized by this experience.
Oh God.
I say press X to doubt, guys. That sounds like bullshit. Sorry.
I kept this one kind of short because, half of the article was just feels and I can't sleep, and, well, Trump has done this in the past, although no convictions have stuck, but he's still done it in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah. Press X to kiss. X's are kisses and doubt.
I like the last line, though, and further states this never happened is directly contradicted by highly credible eyewitness accounts, multiple highly credible eyewitness accounts. So she's got 2 alleged eyewitnesses, and there are multiple eyewitnesses contradicting the account. So now we have she said, he said, they said, they said, they said, they said.
Yeah.
and
one of the things,
no film.
One of the things is one of her eyewitnesses is a former attorney general from Florida.
Okay.
Sorry, hold on. I had to mute an ad that started playing. Former attorney general from Florida who received a $25,000 donation through a political committee from the Trump Foundation that become the subject of an investigation. So she might not have been doing everything on the up and up. So it's not sure if you want that person being your eyewitness.
Yeah, the credibility of an eyewitness makes a big difference. And this is something when I talk to people about dealing with being falsely accused, and they're going to go to court to face an accuser that is using vexatious litigation. So they're making multiple accusations and everything. And I always suggest people have spend more time with friends and family who can witness and report on their whereabouts and their activities and everything, in addition to other means of documenting their behavior. Don't hang out with that cousin that doesn't have a job and spends most of his or her time high, because the judge isn't going to believe that person. Go to your grandma's house, go to your gainfully employed cousin's house.
Yeah. Just so as a reminder, guys. Now, we don't know that this dreaded kiss ever took place. So she could be like, he according to her, he leaned in for a kiss, and she turned her head, and he got the corner of her mouth. Okay, this is her testimony, and it was a peck, right? Like nothing else. But if you hear what she says about it, you would think that he pinned her down and gang raped her with like a bunch of the whole GOP got involved. But
I'm just sitting here thinking about this, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's something
during the campaign, right?
Yeah, during the campaign.
During the campaign, when allegations of sexual misconduct and predatory sexual behavior were already leveled against him and being used against him as a sort of campaign fodder, as a counter to his campaign and everything, because they couldn't counter what he was actually saying in his campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So here we have a guy, right, who is a businessman, who is a strategic kind of person. Like, his whole life is strategy.
Yeah.
From the minute he goes into business, his whole life is strategy. And in the midst of fighting against slander against him, that basically is, this guy is a sexual predator and blah blah blah. He's going to do that?
Yeah.
No.
And on the with the assumption that she won't say anything for like 3 years. And so here's what she says in the interview during her 15 minutes of fame. "I've tried to let it go," she told the newspaper, while reportedly beginning to cry. "You want to move on with your life. I don't sleep. I wake up at 4 a.m. looking at the news. I feel guilty."
Really?
She doesn't sleep from the kiss? Are you kidding me?
Brian, it's indelible in her hippocampus.
That's true. It is indelible. He must have like crazy hot lips to keep her up at 4 a.m. thinking about him. I'm just saying, there's definitely something going on there. But yeah, this is how, and of course the timing is such that we're gearing up for the elections in 2020. This is not. I mean, I'm sorry, I know we don't have evidence either way, but this is clearly a tactical choice that someone's making. They're trying to get us riled up. They're using the Me Too movement and women worsting to essentially seize power from wherever they want it, and that includes political power, obviously. And that's what's happening. There's gonna be more allegations like this coming out against Trump. I guarantee it. Before the 2020 election,
people are already so burned out on this stuff that it's gonna not have any value in the campaign, except maybe to get people who are on the other side, who are tired of the false allegation as a tactic pattern that the left has had. Well, the right's had it too, actually. That they're gonna end up voting for Trump just because they're sick and tired of being told, well, don't vote for this guy, he's a sexual predator, because words. And like in this instance, just based on the fact that, like I said, it would have been a really bad strategy to even so much as give a woman a peck on the cheek at that point in time. At least not somebody who was a good close friend that was like, that's how you greeted each other all the time, and she was always doing the same back to him. Anybody else, like, the smart thing would be to avoid any kind of physical contact. And I just can't imagine that this strategic businessman who has spent his whole life engaging in strategic moves to get anything that he wants done is going to turn around and sabotage himself like that. Like, it just, it just doesn't pass the smell test.
Mm-hmm.
And and then of course the other thing is if she's not hotter than his wife, that makes
Yeah.
it less.
I
And it's
mean,
kind of hard for very many people to be. So
there is that as well. But again, I think that it can have an effect because there are people who believe all of the Me Too stuff, and there are people who believe anything that's negative that's said about the president, no matter what. And so but those people weren't going to vote for him anyway.
Anyway,
so it doesn't,
thing.
It doesn't really matter, right? They were just going to vote for whoever they were going to vote for. So yeah, and it is a short. It's another thing too, is that to make the accusation can get you. That's why I jokingly said 15 minutes of fame, because it can get you that potentially. And you might get to, who knows, write a book about it. Didn't the woman who accused Brett Kavanaugh, I forget her name, but she wrote a book, or she's working on a book or something now about this whole thing.
Of course.
Yeah. So she's
Christine
getting
Blasey Ford.
Yeah, Christine Blasey Ford. She's getting money. She's getting her, she's famous. She's getting a lot of money out of this. She's gonna build on this. I mean, this isn't something that, and besides the fact that we don't have any negative consequences for making an allegation at all. Did you guys hear, speaking of, on a side note, one of the people who made the allegations about Bill Cosby was found that she lied. She basically said it in her memoirs. Janice Dickinson admitted to lying about part of Bill Cosby's drug rape allegations. And Bill is in jail. And she literally just went back and said, yeah, I kind of lied on some of that stuff. No consequences. She can just do that. So this is the world we live in.
Actually, the sad thing is there probably won't be any consequences.
No.
But there really should, because, he's probably going to die in jail. Like, it's the speed at which the court system works.
I don't know how long Bill is supposed to be in jail for. What was it? I forget. It was like 30 years or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, but he's in his 80s. Nobody at that age usually has another 30 years.
No, he'll probably die of old age.
Going to shorten his life. But I'm sure that probably he's in there with people who don't believe that he did what he's accused of too.
Mm-hmm.
But he's probably also in there with people that do, and that's an endangerment factor there as well. So if she lied, it's not just a minor thing where she said something stupid and then I lied. She helped to destroy a man's reputation, and she got him incarcerated at the end of his life.
Mm-hmm.
And really, if they can prove that what she said in her memoirs directly contradicts what she said in court, and that it is an indication that she lied, there should be jail time.
Yeah.
She should be prosecuted.
No, for sure. Something should happen, but I mean,
she probably thinks she's a hero. She probably thinks she helped other women who were sexual assault survivors get a perpetrator convicted.
Sure. But when Jussie Smollett was found to have been lying about everything, there were still people that were saying, well, even though he lied, he was trying to shine light on a real problem. And that legit happens all the time.
They're still making excuses for him.
Yeah, so
you got a group of people saying, "Oh, well, he was a drug addict. He had mental health problems. Mm-hmm. He wasn't in a good frame of mind."
They weren't paying him enough money.
He shouldn't be held accountable for his
actions. He was angry because they're not paying him enough money, so he should be allowed to create a hate crime hoax against.
Well, the drug addiction thing is the interesting one to me, because when Roseanne made her statement on Twitter that everybody freaked out about, got her show canceled, got her killed off on the show and everything.
Yes, when a comedian told a joke on Twitter and everybody lost their mind.
Everybody lost their minds, and she didn't even mean it as a racial thing because she thought she was talking about a white woman. And everybody freaked out about the racial implications because apparently everybody else knew the woman in court. I didn't know who the woman was until I heard about the Roseanne controversy, but she mentioned that she had taken Ambien, and Ambien is a sleeping pill, right? It knocks you out, which means it's going to take you through a time period of being essentially stoned. So she basically said, yeah, she was tweeting while she was stoned, which a lot of celebrities seem to do. They can't sleep. They take this drug to go to sleep, and in that short period of time between when it starts to take effect and when it knocks them out, during which they're stoned, they say stupid things online, and then they have to tell everybody later that they were tweeting well after they took Ambien. And of course everybody, oh, that's not an excuse, that's not an excuse. And here he is claiming not that he was high at the time that he did it or planned it or anything, but that, he's got a drug problem, and that made him a liar. That made him make up a false accusation using a racist stereotype of Trump supporters. I mean, like, he might as well have accused Archie Bunker. He might as well have come out and said, Jed Clampett attacked me.
Yeah.
Like, this is a racial stereotype. This is a racist act on his part. And he's going to turn around and say, well, I have drug problems. No, you are a lying, racist asshole who feels entitled to more attention than you actually deserve. And you decided to try to stereotype a group of people in a way that has been leading to violent acts against individuals from that group during the last few years, and create a national panic over it.
Yeah.
In order to get that attention. Your drugs have nothing to do with it.
No, those are just excuses. But Jussie Smollett did have to pay some kind of penalty for doing that. However, this woman that's making these accusations against Trump, which I'm pretty certain are false, as well as women like Janice Dickinson, who made those accusations against Cosby that were, at least in part, she admits to lying about. They're not there. She put them in her memoirs. She's not going to suffer any consequences unless Cosby comes after her for it. So I don't know. I think there is definitely a difference in the way that we treat men that, they lie for benefits, and women who lie for benefit, it seems. At least that's how it appears. So, so highly doubting this story in terms of its validity. It sounds like BS to me, but hey, let us know what you guys think in the comments section. Although I'm pretty sure I know where you guys stand on that. Also, Cosby, he might be in jail, but is he in, like, he's not in a regular prison though, right? Because he's, first off, they might have a special...
because he's famous. He's
in like a Club Med type of thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like when they put Martha Stewart in jail. They didn't put her in regular jail either, because you can't put somebody that's famous in general population without... It's a guarantee that there's going to be violence against them. And I mean, if you put somebody like that in general population, knowing that there's going to be violence against them, that's a deliberate killing, basically.
Mm-hmm. Someone in the comments,
Tommy Robinson, and then he deserved it.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
you can get away with that in the UK. You can't get away with that in the US because of litigation.
The Tommy Robinson thing, I didn't put it in a story because that, literally, I just found out about it before I had to do the show. So pretty fucked up though, but it just kind of exposes something that we already knew, right? So I'm gonna go through these super chats and then move on to the next story. Hokey Bakisa gives us $4.99 and says, and then they fucked and had 10 more sessions after that one, right? Talking about the story of the woman who accused the guy who was giving her a healing session of a sexual misconduct. Ciara de Flora gives us $2 and says, support equals taking the money and running like Madoff. Again, related to the first story. Frank Tomeo gives us $2 Canadian and says, liars feel guilty. This is speaking about the woman who accused Trump of sexual, I guess you could call it, kissing her without consent, which is basically a sexual assault. Let's be real. This is how they see it anyways, if not flat out rape. Yeah, liars feel guilty. She admitted that she felt guilty when she got up at 4 a.m. But what she was referring to was guilt around all the other women that Trump went on to abuse afterwards because she let him. She didn't speak up at the time. Frank Tomeo gives us $2 Canadian again and says, Jello pudding is awesome. I've never had Jello pudding before. Never had it. or Jello pudding pop for that matter. I've never had them, so I don't know how good they are. Most of the puddings I've ever had were homemade. And when I say pudding, I don't know if I'm saying like the British pudding. Is it the same as this pudding, or is that more like something else? Like what American pudding? Is it the same?
It's a catch-all word for dessert in general.
Right.
A kind of informal one. But yeah, there's also such a thing as a steak and kidney pudding. So it's sort of double meaning. Yeah.
Okay. And then lastly, Ciardo Flora gives us $2 again and says maybe the Innocence Project can help Bill Cosby. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know if you can like what they can do, because many of these claims are very, very old. Very old, right? So, I don't know.
Yeah, I think Bill Cosby's best bet is going to be his lawyer and the fight to get the full version of the tape that was used in the end to convict him. Because if it turns out that his side of the case is correct about that being doctored, that's basically going to tear apart the whole case against him. So, because that was the most credible evidence against him. And if it's fake, then the most credible evidence against him was fake, meaning there isn't any other evidence that would be enough. So I wouldn't worry about so much the Innocence Project as watching to see what happens with that tape.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so that's it for this story. We're going to move on to the next one. We're going to be talking about YouTube. So, Mike J, once again, I hand you the floor. I just want to say before you start, I liked her. Naomi Wu is cool. I can't put my finger on it, but there's a couple of things that I think are pretty cool about her. Okay, go ahead.
I can think of at least 2 reasons myself.
Yeah, right.
But she does seem like an authentically fun person to maybe hang out with. Anyway, so yeah, YouTube's newest adpocalypse has arrived as advertisers such as Disney and Epic Games pull sponsorship deals following a pedophilia scare. It all began when Jessica Ballinger, who vlogs on YouTube with her husband and children, noticed that many of her videos were being demonetized. After reaching out to YouTube, she received the following response. Quote, "Hi there. For reference, over the past few days, we've taken a number of actions to better protect the YouTube community from content that endangers minors. Here's a tweet from Philip DeFranco for more context. With regard to the actions that we've taken, even if your video is suitable for advertisers, inappropriate comments could result in your video receiving limited or no ads, yellow icon. Let us know if you have any questions." In the wake of this bombshell announcement, YouTubers have been scrambling to lock down their comment sections to prevent demonetization. YouTube currently boasts that they've, quote, disabled comments on tens of millions of videos, terminated over 400 channels for the comments they've left on videos, and reported illegal comments to law enforcement.
So, if someone makes a comment on your video that YouTube finds inappropriate, you could be demonetized or worse?
I don't think they've said anything or worse yet, but definitely you could be demonetized.
Yeah.
And the only advice they're giving people so far is, well, shut down your comment sections, which isn't that convenient.
Yeah, it's really dumb, actually, because they've already demonstrated to the public, like completely demonstrated to the public, that they have the ability to control this without doing that. They've shown that they can use algorithms to identify types of speech that they consider to be inappropriate in your videos, in your about section, in your comments, in your low bars, everything. There isn't any area of YouTube interaction that an algorithm can't be used to detect inappropriate speech in, right? Whatever they deem inappropriate. So if they are trying to stop predatory, pedophilic people from commenting on videos of children, All they have to do is employ that capability and target the accounts that are doing that. And that's not really as hard to do as it sounds, in that, like, they're already doing that with people who make anti-feminist comments. They're already doing that with people who make pro-Trump comments. They're already doing it with respect to people's videos, and the subject matter in the videos. They don't even need people to report stuff for them to be able to go through and say, well, this is demonetized. A lot of stuff that we put up that is critical of the status quo and critical of feminist lobbying and feminist financial scams and stuff like that, it gets demonetized. The streams get demonetized before we ever run them. So
Mhm.
this is all auto stuff, right? So then they come along and do what? They're going to penalize the targets of pedophiles. They're going to say, well, if a pedophile targets your channel, even if your video is innocent, so meaning that you're the victim in this instance, we're going to punish you for getting targeted. Is that actually what they want to tell their consumers? That we don't want to stop these pedophiles from looking at these videos and commenting and connecting with each other and networking over videos of children on our platform. So we're gonna punish people for getting comments we don't like. That's insane. It's absolutely insane. And it's
Absolutely.
essentially saying, we condone what they're doing, but we don't condone your complaints about it. And that's it. The other end of it is this. All right. Clearly, they do not understand how the internet works. Because if they understood how the internet works, they would understand how this could be abused. I don't know if
Yeah.
everybody remembers the Occidental College incident, which We Hunted the Mammoth got really upset about when a bunch of Redditors and a bunch of 4chan participants, mostly a bunch of fags, right? It wasn't really so many Redditors as it was. It mostly took place on 4chan.
Yeah.
But then I was involved on both sides of that. To be fair, so I guess you could say either way, right? Used Occidental's public reporting system for sexual misconduct on campus as a means of demonstrating to the university's administrators that, hey, maybe this shouldn't be publicly available for people who are not on your campus to use. And I mean, unless they really want to investigate sexual assaults by a bunch of Looney Tunes characters and Disney characters and Pokemon and that kind of thing, then that's basically what happened. Well, this needs the same treatment, honestly. And start looking at feminist channels. Start looking at various channels on the complaining side. The left, the snowflakes, the NPCs, and I'd see if you can demonstrate to the company why this is such a bad idea.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can think of that would actually demonstrate to them, because there is no need for this. No need for punishing channels for getting comments that are ridiculous. No need for punishing channels for being targeted by trolls. This does need to blow up in their faces.
Yeah, this is going to be it's a big problem, because the only thing that you need, like if somebody wanted to take us down, all they got to do is go on our channel and make crazy ass comments and start shouting, just like Nazi slogans or pedophilic things or whatever, and they can get the videos demonetized. And that it'd be really easy to hurt your enemies this way.
Yeah.
So this is really, really big problem.
And this puts most channels at risk.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these guys operate by all they do is the post timestamps of the most compromising positions they can find. So presumably, even if you comment a timestamp of an innocent video, the timestamp is enough to
Yeah.
get you fired.
You wouldn't even have to say anything crazy. You could just like find something that, you know, sounds, you know, sketchy out of context or something.
And now the other end of this, I will say, we know through all of the doxing incidents that have taken place that people can find out where you live. There's no way to sugarcoat that. People have found out and posted on the internet where I live. I've had my address posted. I've had pictures posted from the Google Images pictures of my apartment complex posted. I've had threats, you know, all the, you know, stupid stuff. Not overt threats, of course. I get people saying they're doing it because they want me to be afraid. And I'm sure most of us get something like that. But definitely, you know, you got to take measures in your internet life to be smart about avoiding attracting crazies. And I say this as somebody who attracts some crazies, like takedown MRAs, has me blocked and still tweets about me to get people to come visit my Twitter profile and comment on things I've said. Like, that's a crazy ass. But because of all that, if you have young kids, you should be careful what you post of them, especially on YouTube, because on YouTube, you have two choices. You can either make your video, well, three: private, unlisted, or public. And if it's private, you know, nobody's going to see it unless you email it to them. If it's unlisted, nobody's going to see it unless they have the link. And if it's public, you have no way to limit who can see it. So if you're posting, you know, that cute thing that your kid did on YouTube, think twice, because you know now that there is a body of predators that specifically target children. And we already know that there are people who do track down people on the internet. And while most of the time that doesn't result in anything, you really want to be extra careful with your kids. You know, like, I wouldn't post pictures of my kids playing in a kiddie pool in their bathing suits. I wouldn't post like the video in question, I think, was a kid doing yoga or something like that. I'd be really careful about stuff like that if my kids were little. I wouldn't let them have a YouTube channel. Anybody that doesn't understand why a kid shouldn't have their own YouTube channel unsupervised by an adult just needs to look up Jesse Slaughter. But yeah, this is definitely not an area where you should be just like, well, nothing should happen, so I have every right to do this. It's a lot like the situation with you know, feminists getting upset about people telling women how to avoid getting raped. You want to avoid getting targeted. Don't make yourself vulnerable, and don't make your kids vulnerable. You know, and until YouTube has a way to fix that. There are other social networking sites that allow you a lot more control over the privacy of your images. And, you know, granted, there are ways that people can search out images on Facebook that are considered private, but it's a lot harder and it's a lot fewer people. And if you're going to share your images online with your friends and family, and you want it to just be with your friends and family, you know, definitely check the privacy settings on your social media to find out if you can do that, and avoid posting them where you can't. So that's just my take on it. I know other people are maybe a little less cautious in terms of internet usage in their kids, but like, this is a reality. You know, the entire world can see it. So that's my thoughts.
Okay. What I'm wondering here is, you think CNN's YouTube channel is going to be affected by this? Or
Susan Wojcicki's channel?
Yeah. Do you think like I don't know, wasn't Jack Black making a gaming YouTube channel? I think he's going to be affected by this. You think the Young Turks are going to be affected by this?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
And I don't think this is going to go universally. So.
And the advice that they're given about, you know, just close down your comment channels.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be doing a real big think here, so stand back. Wasn't it like a little less than a month ago we had another thing talking about YouTube dislike mobs, and the only way to combat them so far was just closing down your like to dislike ratio.
Yep.
So the advice a month ago, just close down your like dislike ratio. Now just close down your comment sections, and you know, in 1 month it was gonna be just don't make videos.
Yeah.
Can't get demonetized if you never make a video.
Why you always gotta make
JPG.
Yeah, why you always gotta make content that make people use the thinky parts of their head and stuff when you could just be making fun stuff like do like Philip DeFranco does at the most. Just say stuff, but like give give the truth, you know, like our truth. Just play along with us. Stop rubbing us the wrong way with your opinions.
Or better, just don't post anything at all.
Or
you know, just pull out of this site, you know, and let the corporate advertisers move in, and let it be dominated by CNN and, you know, B-list celebrities that aren't really relevant anymore, but they're really safe and they bring in lots of ad revenue. And let's just let this whole damn thing become TV 2.0.
That sounds insane, Mike. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't think that's where we're going at all. YouTube is a platform for everybody. Didn't you see the latest YouTube Rewind video and how successful it was? How many people were talking about it?
Oh, they sure were talking about it, bro.
I know. Okay, so let's move on to the next story, unless anyone else has any final thoughts on this YouTube bullshit. By the way, I have learned something. If you're losing subscribers, and I know that lots of people are, I guess what you have to do is you have to like try to reach out to your subscriber base and see if anyone has found that they are no longer subscribed to you, because that's unsubbing people, but it's not like people know that they've been unsubbed. I found out that I was unsubbed from lots of channels that are still around, even though there haven't been any new videos made from them in a long time. So it might be worth it for you guys that are watching to try to remember who you're subbed to and see if you're still subbed to them, because you might have just been like unsubbed from some stuff. That's a whole other issue. But
I want to point out something else too, because there's been a couple of comments in the chats about YouTube not turning a profit, and all of the different social networking sites, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, all of those sites. Facebook's the only one that I know of that's not owned by a parent company. And the ones that are owned by parent companies all claim to operate at a financial loss publicly. And there was an article, and I can't find it now, but there was an article written a while back that broke down the financial reporting chicanery that gets used to claim a business isn't making a profit when in fact they're taking in shitloads of money, and every individual involved with the business and the parent company that owns the business are all actually making money from the business, but they don't. It affects their tax payments. They don't have to pay taxes on their losses, right? So they basically crunch the numbers in such a way as to, on paper, take a loss, and that protects them from having to pay a lot of taxes, and it gives them a shield to hide behind when they start talking about, well, we're not doing this for money, we're not making these changes for money, we operate at a loss. Well, they don't necessarily every time they say that.
Okay, let's look at some super chats, and then we'll move on to the next story. The DCV Titan gives us $2 Canadian and says, just head on over to Susan Wojcicki's channel. That's what I was just saying. Yeah, just timestamp it in places. I don't know. French Honey Badger gives us $5 and says, if YouTube becomes TV 2.0, it'll just become business failure 2.0, so who cares? Well, Yeah, sure, but I mean, for a little while, people who sort of rely on YouTube for their livelihood will probably care.
I don't know if it's rendered to a completely sterile, safe place, and they finally drive off all of the actual small channels and users that they find problematic. I think you're gonna have companies line up to pump them full of billions and billions of dollars to keep them afloat, just to
Mhm.
have a foothold on the internet where they can, safely disseminate all their stuff without having to worry about, any lawsuits or anything like that. And basically, they can get a foothold on the internet.
Yeah. No, for sure. Okay, so let's move on to the next story. This one's just angering me, although this next one is probably also going to anger me, but in a different way.
If you're having a good day, you might want to skip out on the rest of the show.
We're gonna end on some dark stuff.
Sad.
It's gonna get pretty dark here. Okay, so mother murders and dismembers her child. Nakira Greiner, 24, told cops that her 23-month-old son had been kidnapped but was not able to provide any descriptions of the accused. Questioning the mother left New Jersey police suspicious as they found inconsistencies, let's say, in her story. Greiner later failed a lie detector test, and police found some of the child's body in her handbag. New Jersey police then found the burned and dismembered remains of the boy in bags underneath a shed at the family's home. Greiner was charged with first-degree murder, second-degree endangering the welfare of a child, second-degree desecration of human remains, and fourth-degree tampering with evidence. When the selfie-obsessed Greiner failed the lie detector test, she admitted to hurting the boy, saying she left bruises on the boy's face because he would not eat or listen to her, according to the report, as cited by The Sun. That's the story, guys. This is pretty fucked up. I'm not laughing because I find it funny. It's a laugh of discomfort. So, yeah, that's basically the dealio. Anybody have any thoughts on this dark and twisted tale?
It looks like, according to one of the other stories online, she's since she couldn't use the first silver bullet that women usually use when they do something like this to their children and accuse a stranger of kidnapping. Now she's claiming postpartum. This is it's not that I don't believe in postpartum depression. I'm well aware that it exists, and I'm well aware that it has a dramatic effect on the mentality of the mother in question. What that tells me is if this is another postpartum murder, that women are just going to have to be monitored from now on after they have babies, because there's a percentage of women that are going to lose their minds and kill their babies. The use of severe postpartum depression or postpartum psychosis as an excuse for infanticide is pretty much the statement that new moms cannot be trusted with their own children. And oddly enough, before the diagnosis existed, the phenomenon didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You didn't have news story after news story of mother murdering her child, and moms drowning their kids, moms putting their babies in the microwave, like one here in the Dayton area did. I can find you stories. In fact, I did a thread on this on Twitter in response to somebody that said the phenomenon was rare and it was more likely to be the father that was going to commit this kind of abuse. No, moms killing their kids is actually easy to find on the internet. Very unfortunate, and it's not just moms killing their kids. There's news stories of moms that put their kids in the oven, like the hot oven, not just the microwave oven. There's news stories of moms that have killed their kids and sent the father's pictures, or sent the father's video. It's just absolutely horrifying what you can find on, particularly moms of young children, moms when there's a custody battle going on. One mom shot her 2 kids and herself. That made national news. And this is a situation that this isn't going to end. And as long as moms think they can get away with using, I have this mental illness, as an excuse for murder, nobody else can do that. You still go to jail. You still face repercussions. You still can be up for the death penalty in states that are death penalty states. Even if you have a diagnosis, you have to be criminally insane, which means you don't know the difference between right and wrong, which she already blew when she lied because she tried to cover it up. Once you try to cover something up, the court can't actually deem you criminally insane. That's part of the stipulation. This absolutely needs to be addressed. That most of the time, more than 2/3 of the time, when one parent kills the child, it's the mother. So clearly, either we need to stop affording women excuses for this, or mothers need to be monitored after they have their babies. Mothers need to be monitored if they're in custody battles, because that seems to be a thing.
Also, where's Dad in this story? He's not around. There's no mention of a father. I don't think he was present.
That is a good question.
And I mean,
I have a suspicion we'll find out that he was not in the picture at all.
Yeah, I really doubt that, because I'm fairly certain that if he was, there's a good chance that he was probably trying to get her convicted as well, or was involved in this whole case, right? Yeah, so I'm just saying, sounds to me, she's only 24. This is her only child, as far as I know. She spends most of her time taking selfies on the internet to try to look hot. Okay, I don't think there's a father around. I think the boy drove having a child what she wasn't prepared to have. Her thoughtish behavior got her into this situation, and this is basically her reaction to it. It's likely. So yeah, I don't know. It's fucked up, but I don't think there's a dad in the picture. So.
Oh, geez. I just found a news story on this.
Mhm.
There's a GoFundMe page that has been started for the father of the 23-month-old whose remains were found Saturday. This goes on. It says the page identifies the father as Daniel Greiner Sr. and describes him as a registered nurse working 2 jobs. Well, whether he was in the picture or not, 2 jobs. Wasn't home very much.
Yeah, he might have been he
doesn't.
might have had to take 2 jobs to support the child. Maybe he's on child support or something.
It might be child support.
Possibly.
It might be debt. It might be anything, but yeah, it just says here in the GoFundMe. It doesn't say who started this. Okay, the GoFundMe was not started by somebody with the same last name. But it says he had 2 baby boys. So there was one that was even younger. The mother killed her firstborn. So there's the postpartum that she's claiming. And they're expecting him to struggle financially from here on out. So they may have been married. Because they all have the same last name. But that's the situation. And they're almost to the GoFundMe goal. But that's just incredibly tragic.
Yeah. Well, it's good to know that there is a father around and they know about it. So, but it's interesting that the article doesn't really get his side of the story. Maybe it's because it's the son. I don't know. I don't want to assume too much.
Yeah, other news stories are saying that the child right now, the living child, is with the father. So there's at least that.
Oh, there is another kid. Okay.
I don't even want to imagine what he's going through right now.
Yeah, really. I mean, anyway, it's grisly. I mean, she didn't just, suffocate the baby or something like that. I mean, she cut the baby up and burned it. So that's kind of nuts. That sounds premeditated to me. All right. I think we should move on to the next story. The last story. Also kind of a sad story, but nonetheless. So Brody Stephens found dead. Movie star and comedian Brody Stephens, 48 years old, has been found dead in Los Angeles. LA police are investigating the cause of death as being suicide by hanging. This is a quote from The Mirror. Stephens has opened up previously about suffering from depression and mental health issues. And he and Zach Galifianakis, you might know, is a comedian that was in The Hangover. That's part of what he's best known for. He's like the short, chubby, bearded guy. He and Zach Galifianakis produced a Comedy Central show about his battle with bipolar disorder. Brody Stephens, Enjoy It, that was the name of the show, first aired on HBO in 2012 before it was picked up by Comedy Central the following year. He was arrested and hospitalized in 2011 after tweeting that he would put a gun to his mouth and stop taking his anti-anxiety medication. So Brody Stephens has passed away. I thought it was worth mentioning. He was in The Hangover. He played a cop in that movie, in case you're wondering. But he also had a show on Comedy Central and has a history of struggling with depression. Or had.
Struggling with depression and bipolar disorder.
Yeah.
This isn't a star I was previously all that familiar with, but one thing I can say about this, besides the obvious, this is tragic. It's tragic every time something like this happens. But we get thrown in our faces every time something like this happens that it's toxic masculinity, and feminism is helping by trying to make it more acceptable for men to cry and to talk about their problems, their mental health conditions. This guy had all of those opportunities, and he killed himself anyway. What bigger chance do you get to talk about your mental health conditions and to get help and to cry and to be publicly accepted in it? If you have a show, like a public show on a big network, and that allows you to showcase what you're going through, and clearly that is not the problem. Clearly, not being able to talk about it is not the problem. Clearly, not having people not listen, having people tear you down for talking about it is not the problem, right? Obviously, something in this isn't supporting the ability to at least tread water if you have this disorder. Something in this wallowing in the illness, like the society of wallowing in mental health conditions. On the left, the cult of personality disorder would preach to you that everything that we see in this story should have saved him, right? I'm wondering if making it the focus of his life made it worse. You have these disorders in the population. You have a rather large portion of the population with diagnoses like this. In a way, bipolar is kind of like a attention deficit disorder, in that if you go to a shrink and they know there's something wrong, but they can't put their finger on it, you get the bipolar stamp. And then they shove medicine down your throat and boot you out the door. But if they're not supporting, not necessarily recovery, but functional, not maintenance, that's not the word I'm thinking of either, but being able to manage the disorder, functional management of the disorder, and so that it doesn't interfere with your life, rather than having your life be all about that. Are they really helping, or are they actually pushing people more toward the edge? And if they're telling men that the only thing they're allowed to express is, I'm broken, are they really helping men prevent suicide? Or again, are they pushing them more toward the edge? And it's enraging to think about that might be what contributed to this man's death. Because we keep hearing about it all the time. And if feminists had their way, if the social justice warrior crowd had their way, the victim identity cult had their way, this would be the only expression men would be allowed. And I'm sorry to see this happen, and I'm sorry to see it happen every time it happens. But we can't just look at it as a situation of men not being able to talk about their problems. What happens after they talk about their problems is a lot more important. And it looks to me like just from the short bit of information here and a little bit that I saw on Twitter and a couple of other news stories, that was where the failure was. You got somebody close to you that that talks about being depressed or talks about being suicidal. You have to always take it seriously. And you should be pushing them to not make that the focus of their lives. Drag them out of their house. Drag them out of their funk. And don't let I'm sick be the only thing that they ever have as part of their identity. Because that's just going to kill them in the end.
Yeah, and like you were saying, I don't know if this guy was getting the help that he needed. But this seems to be quite common too with comedians and actors, that they struggle with this stuff a lot. So it's a shame, and I hope that his family is doing okay, and the people that he's close to, they have strength in this tough time. I don't know what this guy believed or whatever, but I don't think it matters. At the end of the day, I don't know. He took his own life as just another person, another man, and with the way that we're, the new APA guidelines and everything, I don't know that there would have been people, even if he had managed to get help. I'm not really sure that he would have gotten the right kind of help. So, I don't know. Does anyone else have any other thoughts on this? I think Hannah said pretty much everything I wanted to say.
I think that's about it.
Okay. So I guess I'll read these last super chats, and then we're going to go into the after show then. So French Honey Badger gives us $5. It says, so what you're saying is YouTube is going to become MySpace. That doesn't make them useful to those big media companies. Frank Tomeo gives us $2 Canadian and says, never put your dick in crazy. That was related to the last story. And Frank Tomeo gives us $2 Canadian again and says, females hate broken men. This is related to the current story. Thank you guys for those generous donations and those thoughtful comments.
I don't think females hate broken men. Females have expectations of men, but think about it this way. What is the first thing most women do when they get into a relationship with a guy? Like they find the perfect guy, right? Everything about him is great. They love him. They want to introduce friends and their family, and they want to spend time with him, and they want to get together with him, and they want to hook up. They want to do everything they can together. And So of course, his clothes have to change, and his social habits have to change, and his political views have to change, and down on the list, he got to get a different car and maybe move out of the apartment he's in to a nicer one, and that decor he has just has to go. Females think all men are broken, and what it is as far as men who actually have significant problems, men who are facing adversity of a depth that is beyond what women are accustomed to seeing them face, or at least that has an impact that is beyond the impact females are used to seeing. That scares women, because then they might not be able to depend on him. And like Karen has a story that goes along with that. She always talks about her guy counseling a friend on the phone that was going through some serious problems, and one of his pieces of advice was, don't tell her, man, you'll scare her away. You're gonna have to handle this, and don't let her know what you're going through. And that is a pretty factual representation of the way women react. And it's not right. It used to be that women would do everything to be supportive and to back their guy, and even if he faced significant adversity, even if he had a really harsh problem to deal with, if he was wounded and it was life was getting basically too hard for him, it was his wife or his girlfriend that would have his back and would be there to help him through it, to the other side where he would be dependable again. She'd be the dependable one. And unfortunately, we've lost that in most women. They'll treat all men like they're broken, but if a man gets too broken, then he's not of any use, and they'll throw him away. So it's one of the things that you kind of, not necessarily a shit test, but watch for that as a red flag when you're dating. If you're dating a dependent, run.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's good advice. Okay, so let's see. Any more super chats? No. All right, well, we're going to go into the after show. We're going to take a look at this article. Hold on, I just got to load it up. It's called I'm a Feminist and I'm Against the New Draft Proposal, and it's not for the reason that you think it is. So we're going to take a look at that in the after show. If you guys want to be a part of the after show, you got to become a Badger. And to do that, you have to go to feedthebadger.com and set up a monthly subscription. That'll get you access to the Discord, as well as after show content and other bonus content. And you can hang out with us. Alison tends to be pretty active in there, so you can talk to her there. Sometimes I'm around, as well as Hannah and Prim Reaper and Mike J. We're all there, and there's all kinds of other stuff going on. So if you want to be a part of that, go into feedthebadger.com. It's in the low bar. Join up and make a monthly donation. And hopefully we'll see you there. So we're going to go into the after show now. I want to thank my friends, Hannah, Mike, and Mike for coming on the news show with me. And I especially want to thank you guys for coming and joining us on the HBR News Show. We are going to be getting out of here for now, and we'll see you guys tomorrow with another show.
One more super chat. We've got one more super chat.
Darth Sonic 413 gives us $10 and says, that's because back then women relied on men far more than they do now. They had to support their men for purely selfish reasons.
Nailed it. And it was also harder to divorce them. So you had those two factors influencing it.
There was also a cultural thing about a woman that wasn't married by that point, and men for that matter.
Women faced more ethical expectations than they do today. Women don't have to be ethical today on the same level that they did in the past.
Mm-hmm. There you go. All right. So, and Darth Sonic gives another $5 and says, nowadays only women with actual morals support their men these days. Well, at least, on the one hand, who has the morals because they're supporting their men. And it's not, because there's some I guess, negatively reinforced behavior, but it's rather because it's the right thing to do. So I guess there's that. I guess maybe I'm just trying to look on the bright side. All right, so with that said, I am going to get out of here. So thanks, guys, for coming on the HBR News Show. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Also hit the bell for notifications. And make sure that you are still subscribed. And yeah, check that every so often, because these things, I understand that people do get unsubbed when they didn't want to. So thanks, guys, again for coming on the show. And we'll talk to you guys tomorrow with a new show. Have a great evening, everybody. Talk to you later.